kids would go back to the school, but then they'd write up a piece on their experience in the school, a bit reflection type of piece. So that kind of embedded it more in the kids' psyche. And then the kids, while we had the kids over to the college, the kids would then invite us to the school. So our students go to the school. So there's that kind of interaction, respect, acknowledgement, affirmation about who they were, where they were, and possibilities. So I was always involved in that kind of community stuff, and that's how that's where my kind of, I suppose, professional interaction with communities then began. But as part of my kind of clinical days, I was also doing some work down Lesotho in Southern Africa over the years. We were building a medical laboratory service. I see somebody has been to Lesotho, have you? All right. Yeah, it's a wonderful place. I mean, at the time when we went down, Lesotho was a black African state, which is about the size of Munster, landlocked by the Republic of South Africa. And in the early 80s, there were problems in South Africa, obviously. But I also did a bit of work with the Palestinian Authority, West Bank and Gaza. So that was clinical stuff. But nonetheless, it was interacting with very marginalized groups in a different arena. And then as part of all of that, I was asked then by the president of DIT at the time, would I be interested in kind of developing greater links with DIT and communities. And that's where the Community Links program actually started. So I went into that and been at that for God knows how long now, a long time. And this is what we have today that I'm just going to explain, describe to you what we're doing. So it's not a philosophical type of presentation, it's a very practical one. And maybe you can get something out of it, I hope you can. So, it's great technology, isn't it? The DIT, it's, as you probably know, but it's located in Dublin's inner city. And Dublin's inner city is a space in the city which is bounded by the two canals. And everything in that is the inner city. In terms of DIT, about 22,000 students with about 2,500 staff. We have, in 1992, we were up to 92, we were part of the VEC. In 1992, we were established under legislation as the DIT, and we had our own degree awarding powers up to whatever it is, PhD. One of our problems is that we're all over this city. We're on 39 sites in the city. Now, there's 6 big sites, and you've probably heard of some of them: Bolton Street, Kevin Street, Ainger Street, you know, those sites. But there are other buildings, like our own building, for example, in Mountjoy Square, separate to the college. That's a site. So we're fractured terribly. We have 6 administrations, 6 registrations, 6 of everything. It's horrendous. We have 85 full-time programs and a whole plethora of part-time programs. We're involved, as you are, in research and enterprise and all of that stuff. A nice piece is that for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been working on moving lock, stock and barrel to Grange Gorman. Now, Grange Gorman is a fairly big site in the inner city that was a mental hospital. And some people say it's very appropriate that DIT are moving there. But it's a wonderful site, and we're at the master planning stage now. We have bought the site, and we're going to sell off all our buildings across the city and relocate lock, stock and barrel in a phased way over 10 years. Getting rid of all our rented property first, property we're renting, and then sell off all our buildings. So that's happening as we speak, and it's very exciting, I must say. Just in terms of the inner city itself, and I'm sure the same as you can identify with this in Galway, in the sense that you've similar problems. There are unemployment black spots. It's a terrible name, but that's the name for it, black spot. Some of these have 2 or 3 generations of unemployment, and those that do get employment are mainly in the kind of manual, semi-skilled areas, with the consequence that there's an inability to compete for the quality kind of local jobs. And one of this was in terms of the IFSC centre. I'm thinking more about Grange Gorman here, but as a major development, in the city being built. When the IFSC was being built, there was part of the contract that 10% of the local population would be employed. And while the thing was being built, that was fine because you had kind of labourers and low-skilled workers coming in. But once the thing was built, the local community couldn't attain the 10% employment because the skills weren't there to do so. And as a result of that, the local community lost out quite largely on the quality jobs in that huge infrastructural development for the city. We'd hope the same wouldn't happen for Grange Gorman, and we're kind of working on that at the moment. This is just the inner city. And sorry, maybe I jumped a bit there, did I? No, excuse me a moment. This is the inner city, and this is the Truts-Haas Deprivation Index. I'm not sure whether any of you have heard about this, but for my sins, I'm also involved with Pubble. I'm chairman of Pubble, the government agency with the social inclusion remit. And Truts-Haas did a piece of work for us where he looked at ways of identifying the most marginalised, disadvantaged groups based on a whole lot of criteria. Truts-Haas is a very respected researcher in the whole educational, social area, and it's well worthwhile, I might add. Pubble have this up on their website, and if you want to have a look at it, please do. It's and they have this done for every region, every county in Ireland, every region in Ireland, so you're very welcome to have a look at it, and it's free. So you can see here that the most extreme areas are disadvantaged in the red, and there's quite a lot of them located with kind of slightly lesser disadvantage in the inner city. So it's a kind of a very unique, high-density poverty area, to be honest with you. Now, the demographics have changed, of course, somewhat because the new communities have come in and they're building on any little available site in the city, private houses, private apartments. So there's a huge mix of people within it. And the current statistics, when they look across the board at it, you can see that, you know, the likes of the Smithfield area, or these areas down here, don't appear to be as bad as they are because of this kind of social mix within it. But when you drill down and into the black spots, into the flat complexes, and into the poorer areas, there is extreme disadvantage prevailing within that. The effects on the children, I suppose, is obviously that the kids tend to lack a bit of guidance and ambition, and for us, the lack of self-esteem and confidence and motivation for the kids is really the critical factor. And again, going back to my kind of science days when people talked about self-esteem, that was for the birds, you know. But actually, really, it's at the heart of, we believe, it's at the heart of most things in terms of solution of the problems. Build the self-esteem, self-worth in people, empower the people themselves, and, you know, they can do anything.